this United Healthcare CEO that got unalived, and the world seems to be like cool with it. And I mean, I'm kind of cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I get there is
Phails at philosophy.
You got these insurance companies that are allowing people to come to a place of unaliveness. I feel like I'm doing verbal gymnastics for, you can't say certain words, but
I don't think that's true anymore. They've gotten rid of the fact checkers and everything. You can say whatever you want. It's community notes now.
That's Facebook. So these corporations, these insurance companies lead to people having unaliveness, the ness of being unalive. They lead to people losing their life, lead to people, because they don't have access to things that they paid for access. And yet this blood isn't on their hands.
Right.
They found some way to put these middlemen there, and unaliveness over here doesn't map to what you would call murder over here.
Right.
Which, how does that washing happen in between the decisions, the discernment of these bureaucracies and these people at the top that make those decisions and the people on the ground that are experiencing these tragedies?
Mm-hmm.
Like, infuriating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's your question?
My question, I don't think I have a question. It's just we're discussing this notion, and I don't know. It's just
I found that an interesting moment.
I mean, it didn't hurt that the guy's stunning.
Yeah,
he's like in front of a waterfall,
right,
looking ripped. But
yeah, no, I found it an interesting moment because I think. Both personally and just sort of as a nation, when I look at the response, because it was also just watching the media. Like half the media was like, "Look at all these people who are celebrating this guy's death," and yeah, like maybe we should. And the other half was like, "What is wrong with America that they're celebrating murder?" And it just seemed to like miss the point, because the point seemed to be like, yes. It was hard for me to feel compassion for that CEO.
Yeah.
Right? And so for me, part of my work was to generate that compassion.
For the CEO?
For the CEO, right? To say, yes, I need to recognize that at the end of the day, someone with a family, whatever his implications for everything else, right, was murdered in cold blood.
His family's probably garbage people, though.
Not
literal garbage people. Right. Those are salt of the earth. They're probably entitled people that are just going to perpetuate that class.
Maybe not, but they're human beings who are going to suffer because they lost their dad.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And so that's kind of, and I recognize that I had to do that work to get there. So that's one thing. The other thing is looking at both the recognition that I had to do that work and this, what is that about? I think there's also a natural response to injustice. Right now, we have a system that holds certain people accountable at a very severe level for small infractions against the group. Right? You stole a candy bar and you're the wrong person in the wrong class.
But if you steal 1 billion candy bars,
right.
you're...
Right. You may end up in jail for 5 years. Your life is ruined. Your kids are cut off from you. There's a whole set of things that have generational consequences that come into play because our justice system looks at that and says that's a crime. But if you set up a system that or you should know if you are taking the time to look at things as a leader of that system, is resulting in pain and suffering and death for a wide group of people, but you're doing it for business reasons.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what is the argument? Well, we're getting a good return on investment.
We're getting a ROI.
So we have started to value the capital over life. And when we see that level of injustice and accountability, it becomes very natural to say, yeah, but at least that guy is being held accountable.
Right now, he was held accountable by
like
Luigi.
someone went and held that person accountable. And it helps that, like, yeah, the murderer is saying, I would, he's given all indication I was here to hold that guy accountable, right?
Yeah, he wrote it on the bullets.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Defend, deny.
Right. So yes, I can understand. I equally have compassion for
This
that
dude might get off.
popular response.
He might walk for this.
Right. So that's, and as someone who's trying to support elder care.
Yeah, it's very topical.
Is very topical.
I knew this was a different topic, Grant.
And you know what the reality is, Phil? I mean, it's totally anecdotal, but it sure seems like the before and after of that moment, we're having a lot less headache with our insurance company.
Yeah, folks are probably
claims.
Yeah, I've got two things about this.
So, like, there do seem to be some consequences that may have been good that came out of that.
Two things. One, I knew this was a different subject when I was at the gym working out, and sometimes we talk while we work out, and I brought up this P. Diddy thing, Puff Daddy. He's wrapped up in all this weird reproduction stuff. I don't know the word for sexual stuff, but anyway, he's kind of wrapped Jay-Z up into it too now. And I was saying, like, hey, what do you guys think about this Jay-Z thing? And someone in the class said, I don't feel comfortable talking about that because what you're talking about is a man who's accused of assaulting a young lady. And the topic that we went directly to was the United Healthcare unaliveness of the CEO. So it was just,
and everyone was comfortable with that.
Everybody was fine with it. We had that conversation for a while.
Interesting.
But talking about Jay-Z and, the trauma that this young lady experienced was like off limits.
That's interesting.
So that's number one. And I was like, okay, that's like a bullet point. Okay, this is where our culture's at. Another one was, and this is kind of maybe a comedy bit that I'm working on. I think you notice how we've got all these school shootings and they really aren't helpful at all. And people don't like them. They're horrible. We just need these kids that get angry to go to a different location. We need them to go to boardrooms. I think, and then things might change. We might get gun control if because these kids are going haywire and they're just doing it in the wrong place. Because we could get a lot of value from this horrible thing that's happening if they just did it in the boardroom.
If the violence was targeted.
Yeah. At people that might have there might be a positive consequence to it.
Yeah.
It's just a shame because those CEOs aren't blatantly bullying them or whatever experience they're having in these schools or at home that are creating the dysfunction. But we need to somehow legally give them a way to take their anger somewhere where it'd be useful.
Well, I mean, what you're really saying is you're recognizing that the kind of undifferentiated anger that bubbles up through a broken system is a kind of mischanneled response to that system, right?
Yeah.
And
it hurts a lot of people
and,
that are more innocent.
And I get the dark humor of, like, maybe we just need to target this at the violence of the, I mean, I think obviously the solution is to reduce the violence, right?
Yeah, we need to reduce the violence.
Because, even high level targeted violence tends to, like.
So you don't think what happens at the end of this late stage capitalism is some kind of violent revolution?
I think that is a big danger of what happens.
Because America's probably, the military now is, I don't think anybody, the Second Amendment is going to get you there.
The thing is, like, when I study the history of revolutions, the progress that are made around revolutions, violent revolutions, is in spite of the violence, not because of the violence.
Really?
Yeah, I do think the violence tends to create so many problems. But look, if violent revolutions helped, we'd be in a better place than we are right now. We've had a lot of violent revolutions in the last 200 to 300 years,
Yeah.
right? Like the sort of sense that like the end of late stage capitalism is violent revolution is like, no, violent revolution has been going strong since the 1800s,
So how do we have a non-violent revolution?
right? You know, like, I mean, I think we do see moments of real progress around nonviolent revolution, right? I think the development of the Indian state came about because of that. I think the civil rights movement came around. So like, yeah, but it's hard and it's work.